Okay, if you take a look at pages 168 and 169, you'll see that it is not particularly long. And as we go through it, you'll see that we're going to do very little physiology. Okay? We're not going to talk about things like birth control. We're not going to talk about, what's the other topic? Oh, sexually transmitted diseases. Your book goes into it if you want to read about it, that's perfectly fine. We're just pretty much going to be covering the basic anatomy. And again, since you've been looking at the models as a review, if nothing else, I said this should really help. So let's start off today then with page 170, and we're going to start off with the male reproductive system. Okay, when we think about male reproductive organs, the first, or the main organ most people do think of are the testes. So we're going to talk about first how they originate, then obviously their function and their structure as they work in the body. Okay? All right, number one. Testes originate as a mass of tissue. Testes originate as a mass of tissue behind the parietal peritoneum near the kidneys. That's a mouthful. Testes originate from a mass of tissue behind the parietal peritoneum near the kidneys. They originate from a mass of tissue behind the parietal peritoneum near the kidneys. Okay, then number two. About 1 to 2 months before birth, the testes and other structures descend. About 1 to 2 months before birth, the testes and other structures descend to the lower abdominal cavity. The testes and other structures descend to the lower abdominal cavity. Okay, number three. They pass through the abdominal wall and into the scrotum. They pass through the abdominal wall and into the scrotum. Okay, number four. The inguinal canal is the passageway in the lower abdominal wall in which the testes pass through. The inguinal canal is the passageway in the lower abdominal wall in which the testes pass through. Okay, 5, testosterone, which is a hormone, stimulates the descent of the testes. Okay, now I mentioned that other structures were involved, so let's talk about those. Number 6. The gubernaculum is a fibrous cord, C-O-R-D. A fibrous cord that aids in the descent of the testes and other structures. A fibrous cord that aids in the descent of the testes and other structures. He's still under 6. The gubernaculum attaches to the testes and anchors them in the scrotum. Anchors them in the scrotum. Okay, number 7. The vas deferens and blood vessels also descend with the testes. The vas deferens and other structures also descend with the testes. The vas deferens and blood vessels also descend with the testes. Okay, the spermatic cord is the vas deferens surrounded by blood vessels. The spermatic cord is the vas deferens surrounded by blood vessels. Okay, still under 8, the spermatic cord suspends the testes in the scrotum. The spermatic cord suspends the testes in the scrotum. Okay, number 9, sometimes males develop what's called cryptochidism. This is a condition where the testes fail to descend. And if this is not fixed surgically, the male will be sterile. Anybody know why? Why do the testes, can't they be in the abdominal cavity?
Will it be too close to the body so that we have the temperature?
Got it, yeah, it's a matter of temperature. The body temperature in the testes is a few degrees cooler than his overall body temperature. And if the testes stay in the abdominal area, it's just too hot to produce sperm cells adequately. So by being outside of the body, they're at the exact temperature that they need to be for sperm production, okay? Now, if a male has one testis that descends and the other that does not, and it's not fixed surgically, he can still have children. Okay, he needs at least one testis. But both of them don't descend, they don't do anything about it. It's very unlikely anything will happen as far as producing children. Okay, so if we take a look at this picture up here, it's kind of a little timeline here. So a 7-month-old fetus, here's the testis up here, here's the epididymis, here's part of the vas deferens, and this bluish thing is this gubernaculum, okay? It's a cord, okay, that develops in the embryo, and it's gonna be like the guiding pathway, okay, for the testis to descend with the other structures. Okay, then about, it's a 7-month fetus. An 8-month fetus, you can see that the testis has dropped considerably, and then within a month or 2 after birth, it's properly anchored within the scrotum, and then the structures are all there visibly. When we do the dissection, not this week, but next week, of the reproductive system, you'll be able to see these structures, plus the gubernaculum, okay, and the male pigs there. Okay, so let's take a look in a little more detail of the actual mature testes. Okay, so we're going to look at this picture here. Big one in the middle. Okay, there are many parts that actually make up the testes. Some of the terms I think are kind of confusing, but I didn't name them. Okay, first of all, we start off with the tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea is a capsule made up of dense connective tissue. It's a capsule made up of dense connective tissue. It surrounds the testes and it protects all the inner structures. It's a capsule made up of dense connective tissue. It surrounds the testes and it protects. Now, there are different parts of the testes. This is what I think gets confusing. The first part is called the mediastinum testes. That's a cavity, underlying cavity, meaning it's a space, okay, a cavity found along the posterior border of the testes. Cavity, which is a space, found along the posterior border of the testes. Okay, number 3. Septa are formed when the mediastinum testes passes into the main testes. Septa are formed when the mediastinum testes pass into the main testes and divides it into lobules. Septa are formed when the mediastinum testes passes into the main testes and divides it into lobules. Now remember, a septa is plural for septum, and any septum, whether it's in the heart, the nose, or any place else we've seen them, is always a divider. Okay, it's going to divide or separate things, okay? So it divides the testes into lobules.